Never on schedule, but always on time. Welcome back to the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast. Our apologies for starting a little later, but we needed to make sure the Knicks won that game, which they did.
Yes, sir.
Knicks extending their winning streak to 9, a current NBA best. 3 out of 4 for the season victory against the Boston Celtics in a double overtime. Very dramatic win. Manuel Quickly, what a game tonight.
Ooh, yeah. Balled out.
We are not here to talk about the Knicks, though, although we are very excited that they won. Tonight, we're doing something a little different, something we've been wanting to do for a while. He doesn't care about the Knicks, so that's okay. We're doing a basketball versus boxing movie show. We selected 12 movies, 6 boxing, 6 basketball, going head-to-head. And I'm going to give you guys the rules here and how this all works. The 12 movies listed, 6 boxing, 6 basketball. Of the winners, 6 remain. They will advance to face the winners of our next movie show, football and baseball, later in the month. So, let's start it up.
Let's go.
Raging Bull versus Coach Carter. Who wants first dibs on this thing?
Okay, is that
Zappy, I think you got the TV or something if you want to hit that volume.
I don't have a TV on. I'm in my
Okay,
room.
well, you can't hit the volume on people. That's okay. Don't worry about it. Smart.
This one's hard because one of them was made before my time. Obviously, I've seen Raging Bull.
Mm-hmm.
I love the movie, but the other one was made during my time, and it happens to be one of my favorite movies of all time. I love Coach Carter. I think the way Samuel L. Jackson, not that it's saying that he doesn't take on all his roles and performs them, but the way he played Coach Carter was to a T, and to describe him as the person that demanded respect, and also he was going to give you that kind of respect too, to talk about talking to the kids, yes sir, no sir, that type of stuff, and we're talking about kids that grew up in a really bad part of California, because don't get me wrong, Richmond is not great. I've been there, and I'll tell you right now, it's not that great of a place. So, just to see how it was put on the screen, to see what that basketball team overcame, because you always want to talk about the Cinderella stories, and we're talking about a Richmond basketball team that was bad. They were bad, and then Coach Carter comes in, fills in the spot, brings his son along with him because his son wanted to play for him, and turns this team around into battling the number 1 team in the state of California in the first round of the playoffs to the very end of the game. I thought Coach Carter was a phenomenal movie. Raging Bull, I love De Niro. I think it's one of the better boxing movies. Do I think it's the best boxing movie? No. Out of these two, though, I'm going to go Coach Carter.
I have a feeling that Idris might be our deciding vote on who advances. Okay, to your point, I think you more or less nailed anything and everything I could have said about Coach Carter. Great performance by Samuel L. Jackson, and no surprise. Because even in a movie like Goodfellas, where he was in a very small role, anyone that knows acting knows that dude was going to step into some pretty big roles and make an impact. Raging Bull, no, I do not think it's the greatest movie in the history of boxing movies either. But I am going to give this a little bit of the edge here for one simple reason. I think similar to the way that Will Smith captured the Ali character, I don't think any other actor could have done the job that Robert De Niro did for Jake LaMotta, a.k.a. the Bronx Bull. Joe Pesci in a supporting role, excellent. Anytime that you have Pesci and De Niro alongside each other, it's always a win, whether it's Casino, whether it's The Irishman, whether it's Goodfellas, and this first pairing here in Raging Bull. I'm giving Raging Bull the win, but I have a lot of respect for both these movies.
This, in my opinion, was the hardest one.
Yeah, everything both you guys said, both the two stories, Coach Carter, the way he had the kids, look, you're going to sit in the front of the classroom, you got to maintain this grade. He was hardcore, like, look, I'm going to make y'all men. It's a true story, about Ken Carter. Raging Bull, I'm old enough to have seen the movie when it came out, so I'm showing my age. I think I watched it Oh God, I might have watched it 10 times, literally, some back to back. I'm a boxing fan, so I'm kind of biased with it. But I think Robert De Niro played. I think both actors played the hell out of their parts. I just think Robert De Niro combined with Joe Pesci, knowing Jake LaMotta's story, I got to go with Raging Bull. But it is a coin flip.
This one is without question.
Yeah, this is a tight one. What I want to say about Raging Bull, one parting thought here before we move it along, is that I think the fight scenes, and there's something about watching a boxing movie in black and white that kind of captures the realism a little better, unless if you're talking about the new age stuff that they started with Rocky Balboa, that they developed into some of the other movies, then yes. But no, Raging Bull for sure gets the edge because of the fact that it's just kind of iconic.
And I'm happy you paired those two up because they have so much things in common. Also, being true stories. That to me is the big one here.
They're both gritty. They're both very gritty.
Yeah, and if it would have been a movie where, say, Coach Carter wasn't the true story or Raging Bull, then the true story is going to win this one. But this is the one out of all other 5 we have left. This is the one that I was like, God, this one's going to be a tough one. And the only reason why I went with Coach Carter is because I grew up with it. Right. You know, like I've watched Coach Carter many times. I just watched the damn movie 2 weeks ago with my son. So
yeah, I actually have it. I realized I had it when I was cleaning up the house. I've got a huge DVD book, and I do have Coach Carter. So yeah, definitely an excellent flick. We're going to move it along to another iconic boxing movie. Again, something I guess you consider more of a new age basketball movie, even though it's not new anymore. Definitely a game changer for basketball movies. We're going Rocky versus Blue Chips. I got to say, I'm going to start with Blue Chips. I thought Shaquille O'Neal, Penny Hardaway, and of course, Nick Nolte leading the way, but Nick Nolte's a real actor. Shaquille O'Neal, Penny Hardaway did a phenomenal job. And what's interesting about this is the story of how they came to be and came together. Blue Chips was about a program that essentially was doing things illegally, whether it be recruiting, whether it be paying players. Now in the NCAA nowadays, players can make money now, but this is way before that era. And also what's interesting about this movie is that it actually led to the Orlando Magic trading for Penny Hardaway on the request of Shaquille O'Neal. Shaquille O'Neal, when he attended LSU, did not even know much about Penny Hardaway, nor that he played at Memphis State. He didn't know anything about him. And were it not for injuries derailing Penny's career, they could have potentially been the greatest 1-2 duo, which probably ended up being Shaq and Kobe. Some would argue Pippen and Jordan. Some would argue Magic and Jabbar. But excellent movie. Shaquille O'Neal did a great job in his first acting situation. Definitely a lot better than his second one in that bomb they called Shazam. As far as Rocky goes, short and sweet for this one, really, because I think everybody's seen Rocky at this point.
What's Rocky?
What's interesting about it is it was only supposed to be a one-off.
Yeah.
Rocky in part 1 plays a loan shark, kind of down on his luck, club fighter. He starts a romance with Talia Shire, who was so vital to the first 5 of the series. Creed 3 just released this week. That's the 9th in the franchise. But this almost was a one-off. It ended up winning Best Picture that year. But, it was basically kind of like an American Dream kind of situation. You have the most famous fighter on planet Earth at the time, fictitiously an Apollo Creed, and he needed somebody that had a cool name, essentially, and somebody that could sell a fight. He fought in his hometown of Philadelphia against Apollo Creed in part 2. Part 1, I believe it was an MSG, if I'm not mistaken, or it might have been in the Spectrum. I have to revisit that. I actually just lost that thought. But pretty phenomenal. Rocky did win Best Picture.
So who's your pick?
I got to give Rocky the edge here, just for the nostalgia value, but make no mistake, Blue Chips was very good for what it was. And, possibly if you line up Blue Chips in a different bracket, maybe it advances. In my book, I'm going Rocky.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Rocky also. And it was a lot of controversy about the movie because Chuck Wepner said basically Sylvester Stallone got that for his career. Because if you look at the career of Rocky and Chuck Wepner,
very similar.
Very similar.
And I have something to tell you about Chuck Wepner too, with regard to that.
Oh, yeah, I want to hear it. With Blue Chips, I like Blue Chips because it told a real big story, especially about scandals in basketball, people getting paid off. And with Nick Nolte at the end, basically saying, I cheated at the end of the press conference. It brought realness to the movie and to what's really going on in sports. But I'm still going to go with Rocky because, God, he lost at the end. Both really lost at the end because his team, Nolte's team, won, but they cheated. Where Rocky lost the fight, but it was one of those epic battles at the end. So I'm going with Rocky for the win.
It's crazy that Blue Chips came out the year after the program came out. And when we're talking, and that movie gave us kind of explained how college football was when it comes to recruiting or players, the limits they'll go to earn a starting job by injecting steroids, things like that, and to see whenever you're the quarterback. Anyways, it's just crazy that both those two movies came out around the same time. Yep. I love the program. I love Blue Chips. However, neither movie is in my top 5 for best football or best basketball movie. Mm-hmm. Just because there's a lot to do with it. And when you're going up against a movie that a city made a statue after it,
right?
yeah, you're not going to win a lot of.
I'm going to be honest. I kind of did that on purpose because I wanted to make sure that Rocky advanced.
Yeah.
Well, this would be the 116 matchup right here.
Right.
This potentially
is because this
with March Madness around the corner, we needed one of those.
This is Rocky, hands down. I love Blue Chips, I really do. But when I look at Blue Chips and the program, two very similar types of movies.
I tend to
love
agree.
them, but they're just not my top 5 for football or basketball.
I do think there was more realism on Blue Chips' part. Some might disagree.
I agree.
Keeping it in the Rocky family. The original Creed versus He Got Game. Adonis Creed, illegitimate son of the late Apollo Creed. Apollo Creed was, of course, Rocky's nemesis turned friend in their series. He seeks out Rocky for direction in Philadelphia and ultimately becomes the heavyweight champion, but not in the first installment. He Got Game. Denzel Washington and NBA superstar Ray Allen. This was cool to me because He Got Game was filmed in Brooklyn during my senior year of high school, and I saw a lot of the shooting going on, which was really cool. This is actually a lot closer than some might think. And especially because of a recency bias thing, Creed is really hot. And I am a fan of Michael B. Jordan, want to let that be known. I think he's a legitimate actor, not just for the Creed series. I think he's legitimate.
No, he's gonna be around for a while.
Yeah, he's legitimate all the way around. But in what might be considered an upset in my eyes, I'm picking He Got Game. The father and son element of He Got Game really resonates with me. Although Creed is also a father-son thing to a level because he's honoring his late father, trying to dig deep into who he is. I think that angle of the Adonis Creed character comes about more so in part 2, and I have yet to see part 3, which was released this past Friday. So I got He Got Game in an upset here.
I'm going to go with He Got Game.
Shit.
I'm going with He Got Game too. I like Creed, but I think it's just like it was good, but it just
it didn't do it for you like the say even the last
not until it started getting a Creed 2 to where he got game. It told a good story, and the story it told happens in a lot of black neighborhoods. So I think it was more real than Creed. So I'm going He Got Game.
And a lot of aspects, not to the T, but He Got Game did borrow some aspects of the basketball journeys of not only Stephon Marbury, being from Lincoln High School, but also his younger cousin, Sebastian Telfair. And they did make references to Marbury in the movie. Good flick. Zappy, your thoughts? He Got Game advances, but I still want to hear what you have to say.
No, it's unanimous. The reason why I go over He Got Game over Creed is because what you said. And when I think of Creed, we've seen this story before, kind of with Rocky. So it's kind of one of those. The bar has already been set so high with Rocky that in order for Creed to win this category, they would have had to have done better than Rocky. And unfortunately, I don't think it's going to happen that way, just because Rocky's the original.
It's a tough shadow to shake, and to the viewers that maybe don't know, Stallone is no longer in the Creed franchise. He may reemerge. It's not a burn bridge, so to speak, but as of right now, he's sitting it out for a litany of creative reasons, as well as what, in my opinion, the need for the Creed character to kind of stand on its own. And I do think that Rocky could be welcomed back, maybe in a part 4 or a part 5, possibly.
I hope so. But and then you look at the big one for me is I look at the role Denzel played in that movie, and I thought he played that role phenomenally.
Denzel killed it, and Ray Allen, for a guy who was basically a Milwaukee Buck at the time, one of the best players in the league at the time, I thought he was rather natural with how well he did. And you also had Jim Brown in that movie, who played one of the cops,
right?
NFL legend Jim Brown.
So forgot about that. Yeah,
I mean, it was Spike Lee hit a home run with this. I gotta say.
Yeah.
So right now, boxing leads basketball 2-1. We're gonna move it along to Ali versus Hoosiers. I need a breather. So what do you guys could start on this one?
Hoosiers by 30, man.
Yeah, Hoosiers. I mean, it's convenient that Hoosiers is blowing this one out.
Yeah, Hoosiers by 30, man.
I can't really put up an argument for Ali. I loved what Will Smith did in that movie.
Yeah,
but no, there's just too much more meaning behind Hoosiers. That movie was phenomenal.
Hoosiers was it.
Yeah,
I have to go unanimous sweep here, and to be honest with you, coming off the heels of the Chris Rock episode yesterday, or even just what's been going on with Will over the last couple of years, I'm going to say this. Will Smith has always been one of my favorite actors, but I have gradually lost respect for him as a person over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So we know that Hoosiers crushes Ali here, but I'm going to tell you why Ali was a great movie, even in defeat. Similar to what I said about Raging Bull with De Niro, nobody could have pulled off the role of Muhammad Ali better than Will Smith himself. What I really enjoyed about the movie is that I think it dug deep enough into who Ali was as the introspective person, not just a fighter. With changing his name, the reasons behind it, the jail bid. The mutual respect with Frazier, although they necessarily didn't really like each other. And legitimately just really some heat with Sonny Liston. I think it was pretty accurate. And I think a lot of movies drop the ball when it comes to that. This was not one of those cases. But similar to Rocky, because of the iconic nature of Hoosiers, I got to give Hoosiers the edge. And I think we got a three-way sweep there.
Yeah, and this is not the knock Ali, but
no, nothing.
Yeah, but Hoosiers was like a dude. That was a
that's
movie, man.
Yeah, it was a great movie. I mean, it's really hard to argue that Hoosiers is not the greatest basketball movie ever made.
Right.
That's one thing it's hard to talk about. And when you talk about Ali, that one barely misses my top 5 of greatest boxing movies of all time. So
I think I might be comfortable putting Ali in the top 5 for the sheer fact that so much of the film was actually ring-based stuff.
Right.
But And I thought that they reenacted the movies really well with the Foreman character, with the Frazier character, with Sonny Liston. So in that regard, and even Jamie Foxx, who played one of his cornermen, looked just
Bundini
like
Brown. Yeah, Bundini
just
Brown.
like him. So
the hair and all.
yes. So
yeah.
Hoosiers for the sweep. Southpaw versus White Men Can't Jump. Oh man, this is a tough one. White Men Can't Jump. Two basketball hustlers, white man, black man. Wesley Snipes, Woody Harrelson, Rosie Perez, who doesn't necessarily get enough respect, I think really was vital in not only the comedic value of this movie, but also in the sense of a very like broken but real love that her and Woody had for each other in this thing.
Yeah.
Wesley Snipes was at the height of his game during this time because he was one of the hottest actors at the time. I mean, he was everywhere. He was in Passenger 57.
Oh man.
You know,
rest in peace, Tom Sizemore.
Yeah, rest in peace, Tom Sizemore's big loss for the Hollywood community. But White Man Can't Jump, one of my all-time favorite basketball movies. I actually saw this movie in the theater with my stepdad and my brother. It was cool, even the way they incorporated Jeopardy with Rosie Perez finally getting on. There was a lot of humor galore, but it also showed like the ugly part of addiction, because what people fail to forget is that gambling is also an addiction. It's not always predicated off of drugs, so to speak. What are your thoughts on Southpaw? Because I'll be honest with you, I'm no matter what, I'm taking White Man Can't Jump here.
Yeah, I like Southpaw. It was good. Good little love story in there somewhere, but I gotta go White Man Can't Jump, man. That thing, it told so many stories in one.
I think it did a lot for just expanding on even like the NBA. Like the NBA loved this movie. And another thing that's interesting, you remember the scene where he's trying to square up for money to play, and he goes to the local store, and the guy calls him out from behind the counter. He's like, "Man, I know you."
Yeah.
That was actually loosely based on Brandon Haywood of the Lakers fame, who was unceremoniously dumped due to his drug addiction. That was actually supposed to be that character.
You know,
so I always thought that was kind of interesting how it was like a little bit of a realism spin on that too.
I say with White Man Can't Jump because since that movie, now if you got a white guy who does something like the Barry kid that won the dunk contest, and now McClung who won the dunk contest, they always say now, "Oh, white men can't jump." It just became
similar to like throwing a paper in a garbage and yelling Kobe.
Yeah, it just became a thing.
Indeed,
and it told so many stories because you had the love affair with Rosie Perez and Woody. You had, like I said, Wesley Snipes doing his thing, not knowing that he was actually getting over on, Woody to make his money, and it was a damn good movie.
It showed a lot of angles of even a broken friendship that ultimately became real and strong.
Right.
Between the two of them, because they both were going through similar things, which was essentially trying to get out of poor living situations and trying to keep their women happy, who were really no bullshit, no nonsense kind of women.
Right.
So, as much as I like its opposition here, I got to go with White Man Can't Jump. I just got to.
I like Southpaw. I thought Southpaw was a great movie. I thought Jake Gyllenhaal did a great job. A lot of people don't realize that this movie actually was inspired by Eminem's life. So when the writer something Sutter, I can't remember his first name, when he was writing this movie and created this movie, he was doing it in the eyes of Eminem to an extent. So it's a lot of comparisons, and when you actually go rewatch that movie and think about Eminem's story, then you'll start seeing it. But Eminem is actually what inspired that movie. But then, I mean, come on, man, Billy Hoyle, Cindy Dean, hey, Chump, come here, Chump. You won't have just lost to this chump one time, but two times. This is shot.
I got him when they were hustling those. Yeah, I got him. Man, I'm not playing with Opie.
White Man Can't Jump is a phenomenal movie, man.
It's a classic. Dude.
It's a classic.
I've never met someone who didn't enjoy that movie. I mean, like
and
literally.
And it's crazy because that movie came out too while Larry Legend was out there owning the NBA as well. You know,
and bro, I mean, it even touched on like a couple of things that might be deemed as uncomfortable today.
Yeah,
you know, when Woody Harrelson pisses off Wesley when he's telling him that Jimi Hendrix was the only black dude on that album, the Jimi Hendrix Experience. Wesley Snipes couldn't believe it.
You can't hear Jimmy.
Yeah, you can't hear Jimmy. Yeah. Or even like when Woody was like, a black man would rather look good and lose. A white man don't give a shit how he looks and wants to win. And when I'm listening to this, I'm like, bro, essentially what you're saying is the white man's just holding out for dear life. But
that was a damn good movie, man.
No, it really was.
I love the scene.
Hey, you're not going to see anything like that nowadays.
No, you won't. That's
what makes it even better.
Yeah.
No, and I think the best scene of that movie was the one that described the movie title when after Sydney and Billy had just won that tournament together, they split the money right down the middle, and then Billy puts the money on the line to show Sydney he can dunk the ball. And he couldn't. That was such a huge scene of that movie.
Yes, it was. Because essentially that's how you get the title of the movie. Not to mention that the ramifications of what it meant for Woody's character.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, the way the next tournament, the way he finally got up there and dunked it, that was awesome to see. You knew it was going to happen because it's a movie.
It had to at some point.
It had to happen, yeah.
But true story from what I heard from people that have knowledge of this is that the word is that Woody Harrelson really was quite the baller.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was.
Hey, yeah, he was. Yeah. When Adam Sandler was getting recognized, Woody Harrelson's name would always come up.
So there's some legitimacy to it. I've always known that Snipes was a good athlete. Mm-hmm. He even exhibited that even in the major league movies, playing Willie Mays Hayes in Part 1. But
Wildcats, he displayed it on that one too.
Yeah. Wesley Snipes, like I said, he was doing it all.
I love Wildcats.
Yeah. I remember that now that you mention it.
I mean, come on. Name someone else that can show up to spring training, then end up outside the training facility in a mattress and take off running as they're doing wind sprints and still win.
I love that movie. You're gonna make me end up watching that tonight. $1 Million Baby versus Love and Basketball. This is I think gonna be a lot closer than it might appear at the surface. I'll start with $1 Million Baby. Hilary Swank, Clint Eastwood, perfect marriage of trainer and student. I don't think this movie gets enough love in terms of being a great boxing movie because of the dramatic aspect of it. But at the same time, I think it broke down a lot of doors because of the fact that this was a woman boxer, a female boxer. Yeah. So in that regard, I think that it definitely has its place. Love and Basketball, that's next level, man. Iconic in terms of just what it superseded my expectations when I first saw it. Yeah. And Sinai Lathan, man.
I agree. Love and Basketball was to the heart. $1 Million Baby was, boxer, but it's not one of my favorite boxing movies. But Love and Basketball.
No, it's not. It has its place, and it has its place. I believe it won Best Picture that year. I'd have to fact check.
It won a lot of awards that year.
Yeah. It was a good movie. And me as a boxing fan, I loved it. Because Clint Eastwood played a good trainer and everything. But Love and Basketball is just a good love story, man. It's just a good.
Yeah.
Look, if I beat you, let me get that number. Let me get that.
Yeah. It was like two different lanes of a love story because one love story is about a romance.
Yeah.
That being Love and Basketball. The other love story is essentially the love of a father figure.
Right.
And a girl who never had any direction or people who cared for her the right way. In that regard, it's actually similar to the original Rocky.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna choose $1 Million Baby because I know that neither one of you are.
Yeah, I'm not.
I'm actually. I was gonna choose $1 Million Baby.
Oh, too
shit!
I love Love and Basketball. I really do. I loved everything behind that movie. But $1 Million Baby, Clint Eastwood is the reason why that movie wins. He plays that role.
I'm just surprised because I just assumed that I was the only one that was going to speak on it or say it. I thought Love and Basketball was going to get a sweep. I said I got to.
No,
wow, we got an upset here.
I loved both movies. I thought Love and Basketball was great. I thought Omar Epps did a great job. I love the story behind it, where you're thinking it's going to be Omar that has the better career,
correct?
But then end up being her, and and yes, he gets his opportunity with the Lakers finally, but he never turns into that player,
right?
And then I look at $1 Million Baby. I think this was kind of the start of when we started to see women in combat sports really start taking off.
Yes,
it took a few. Obviously, a few years later is when we started seeing the Ronda Rousey.
Shout out Christy Martin, one of the originators. By no means the best boxer. Shout out Layla Ali.
Layla Ali, no question about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then so now where we see the evolution of women in combat sports, it's amazing. And I was just talking about Shevchenko and Grasso this morning, So, yeah, I think this was kind of what started it. WNBA and then women's soccer really took off. And then we started seeing it with other things as well. But, yeah, for me, this one, I love in basketball. It's one of my favorite basketball movies. I loved both the stories, like you said, the actual love story, but then the love of basketball, that story behind it.
Yeah, and similarly to another movie that Sanaa Lathan co-starred in, Brown Sugar, which obviously not sports related, but if you're a hip hop head, you hold that movie very high and very much so on a pedestal for a litany of reasons. Yeah, I'm a little surprised $1 Million Baby edged this out, but I'm gonna go as it is. I'm gonna let it be. So $1 Million Baby advances.
Well, before you go to the last one, boxing is ahead right now, 3-2.
Oh no, we're not going to the last one. We have up to 12 matchups here.
Oh, I thought it was 6 matchups.
Six winners. Cool. 6 winners.
Oh, okay.
We got Grudge match against Above the Rim. So basically, my favorite actor against my favorite rapper. This is interesting. Two of my favorite actors, but definitely my favorite actor in Robert De Niro. Robert De Niro, Sly Stallone, excellent comedic value for the sheer fact that they based it on like what they did years ago. Because a lot of people forget, Bobby D could play a psycho, and he's been a gangster many times over. But as De Niro got older, he's become even more and more adaptable to these comedic roles.
Yeah,
but having said all that, Above the Rim gets my vote. Because of the fact that, number one, the soundtrack was ridiculously good.
Crazy.
Yeah, the soundtrack was crazy. Tupac, in his short life, in addition to being one of the greatest rappers, he really was just getting started on showing the other side of him on how great of an actor he was.
Yeah, and he was phenomenal.
I think Juice was game-changing. Poetic Justice, he was pretty phenomenal.
I liked him in Gridlocked.
I did like him in Gridlocked because it showed a perspective of a drug addict and the struggle with that.
And then Tim Roth, man, they killed that.
Yeah, quite frankly, I haven't seen anything with Tupac that I didn't like. That also applies to his music posthumously as well as while I was following him. Big shout out to Robert De Niro and Sly, but I got to go with Above the Rim here.
Go ahead, Zappy.
Above the Rim by a landslide on this one. For the sheer fact that we're talking about a comedy versus a drama. And I'm going to take dramas all day when it comes to those two categories. I love Tupac in this movie. I thought his acting and career was on full display.
Because for such a little guy, he had a presence that was very intimidating. And it was similar to who he was even on Earth, because talk to your boy Will and ask him if he would have played that shit if Tupac was giving out the award as opposed to Chris.
No.
Oh.
And Tupac isn't that much bigger than Chris in the grand scheme of things.
Right.
No.
But Tupac was a scrapper.
Yeah, no, and Grudge match. I liked it. I liked seeing Stallone, De Niro in there. You cannot forget. You got to
It has its place. It was funny.
No, yeah, and I got to send a shout out to Kim Basinger because I loved her as an actress.
For sure.
But what's his name? Alan Arkin. I love him, and I thought he added to that movie. But just the story in Above the Rim, very similar to Love and Basketball. But you look at all the stories that are tied into this actual movie. It's not just one story. There's a lot of stories.
You have a lot of flashbacks too that become meaningful as the movie develops.
Exactly. And to me, Above the Rim by a landslide on this one.
And also where it was filmed,
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm going Above the Rim also. Although I love Grudge match, man.
Movie... And like I said, sometimes it's the luck of the draw.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to be honest, with the exception of a couple, I literally went by the first movies in my head to make this organic and natural and not overemphasize what seed is what and who's this and who's that.
Yeah.
And I figured we could have open conversations about these movies without overthinking it when I put them up.
Yeah,
so
two old dudes that I love
on a lot of levels. It was damn funny.
But yeah, I'm going Above the Rim. It was just so much. It was just so much in that movie, man.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you, Idris. So I think we gotta. Well, we know that it advances by getting 2 of our votes. Zappy, you're in on Above the Rim as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's a clean sweep. This is going to be interesting, or maybe not as interesting as I think. We have Tyson versus Glory Road. Zappy, open up a Glory Road. I know that's one of your favorites.
Well, I'm going to take Glory Road because of my own personal connections with the movie. I went to that university. They were Texas Western at the time. When I went there, it was the University of Texas, El Paso. Mm-hmm. But we're talking about a major movement in college basketball, especially in the South. West Texas Western ended up being the first team in a national title game to start 5 black players and to play his 2 black players off the bench. None of the white players played that game. And a lot of it had to do with because who they were going up against. And that was Kentucky, Adolph Rupp. One of the most racist coaches. They didn't actually get a black player on his team till I forgot what year it was. And you don't get a black coach till Tubby Smith in the 90s, So
yes.
You talk about the historical significance behind this movie. Pat Riley said it best, and he was a part of that Kentucky Wildcat team that played against Texas Western and lost 72-65. That was the Emancipation Proclamation of college basketball. It brought a lot of things because when you look at what the Texas Western had to go through when Don Haskins, who is one of the greatest college basketball coaches to ever coach, when he took that job, a guy that's from Dallas coaching the high school girls basketball team and goes out and recruits black basketball players out of Indiana and New York, it kind of sent shockwaves like, whoa, hold on, what are you doing here? So when you look at that, all the historical significance behind this movie, I've got to go with Glory Road by a long shot. I loved Tyson. I thought it was a good movie.
Especially for the low expectations being that it was an HBO made movie.
Exactly. And I think Glory Road, I don't think a lot of people expected it to do so well, but I thought, oh gosh, I just went blank. The guy that played Don Haskins, I thought he did phenomenal. He played him to the T. A lot of people don't realize Don Haskins is in that movie when he's getting gas. Or when Don Haskins is cleaning the car up and the coach is getting gas. But anyways, yeah, it's just, and then to see the carryover from that, where we see in El Paso, Willie Gager still very much a part of the community. Neville Shedd still a part of the community, and just everything that's behind it. And then when, oh my gosh, the point guard, I'm drawing blanks. I can't believe I'm drawing blanks. When he passed away, and it brought an entire city to go watch his funeral. It says a lot. So for me, it's Glory Road by a long.
Yeah, it's Glory Road, and it's not even fair to the Tyson movie. But like I said, I wanted to match these up off the top of my brain as opposed to analyzing too deep. You said enough about Glory Road. All I'm going to say is that they did a phenomenal job of Mike Tyson. And this movie was filmed as he was with the rape conviction included in it, kind of like with a left to be continued more to it kind of deal, but very accurate very accurate in terms of what they were able to accomplish with a limited budget. But yes, Glory Road for the win.
Bobby Joe Hill.
But yeah, I went with Glory Road also because
hey. What are you talking about here? Talking movies.
Like, slip of the tongue.
No, he's so that. I told you that. It looks like Shane Diesel.
You know, I studied a little bit sometimes.
It's not February anymore. He's still seeing him pop up with iconic figures.
Hey, what you know about Shane Diesel?
He knows about him.
Anyway,
apparently we're brothers now.
Yeah, I'm going with
Glory. The rumor on the street that him and Zappy are brothers, but at any rate,
okay. Well, I'll go with Glory Road too, man, because Tyson. People pretty much know Tyson's story.
Yes.
And with Glory Road, a lot of people don't know about that Texas Western team and 8-0 up. A lot of people don't know about that team.
And like I said, I wanted to advance too for the sheer fact that I want to see how it does against these other sports movies on a different show. It's going to be interesting.
I'm going Glory Road. It's not even close. Tyson was nice, but Glory Road was it.
This might be the easiest one for me on the whole panel tonight. Space Jam versus Bleach for this. Listen, no disrespect to Vinny Pazienza. Yeah. It was an awesome story. Vinny Pazienza overcame a horrific car wreck.
Yeah.
Also other demons. And competed at the highest level during the 1980s in a very congested welterweight, middleweight, just that weight class. Mm-hmm. But Space Jam, similar to Who Framed Roger Rabbit, is the first of its kind.
Right.
And you had the greatest player on planet Earth, MJ, for the win with Bugs Bunny, no problem.
Same here.
Yeah, Space Jam. There's no question about it. It was, like you said it best. It was the first of its kind, which goes back to the point we made about Creed and Rocky. Creed was not the first of its kind. Rocky was. Mm-hmm. But I forgot to say one thing that a lot of people don't also realize, that Texas Western, they were the only school out of the state of Texas to have a men's national basketball championship up until Baylor 2 years ago. If that means anything. So for people like myself, a lot of people that have any ties to UTEP, it's like me, I'm a huge Longhorn fan, and that was the only school I want to see win a men's title from the state of Texas. And of course, Baylor did, and I was a little upset about that. But yeah, but as far as Space Jam goes, I mean, dude, I thought Michael Jordan was going to struggle. I was a kid, but I wasn't expecting that. And today, when I go back and watch it, and I'm like, Jordan actually did a pretty good job in this movie.
Mm-hmm. I thought he killed. Actually, it's so funny. I watched our episode earlier today in my back room, and by pure chance, Space Jam came on YouTube following our, I don't know how or why, but it did. So I watched a few minutes of it, and that's kind of what sparked my brain to even put it on the show. But I'm glad we did, because I think it has its place. Great White Hype versus Hustle. This is a contrast. These are two completely different sides of the coin here. In terms of Great White Hype, hilarious. And it really, if we're talking politics, Great White Hype would be the equivalent of what Wag the Dog was in terms of the Hollywood realm. It shows you like how comical, but how honest the boxing game is, and how they whore out their services, so to speak, when they're getting fighters. It also shows the similarities of, like, say, a Buster Douglas upsetting Mike Tyson. Yeah. It took a mammoth performance by Buster, but it also took Mike not taking the situation serious. And I think Damon Wayans did a phenomenal job in that. Having said all that, Hustle was on a different level, and it really just got into it. Was gritty. It was soulful. And Adam Sandler, he could do it all. The Hustle for the win, on the sheer fact that I think it really showed a lot more to what the players from overseas go through, and that it's not just about making millions and making the league. There's so much more to it.
Well, everything you said, but I'm going with Great White Hype. The reason being is because that's what it was. The whole movie was just a guy talking shit who was retired.
And once again, Samuel L. Jackson reemerging here.
Exactly. And then at the end, the fight was like like
Shades of Tyson McNeely.
right. It was like that.
Yeah, yeah.
It was hype. I mean, Hustle. Yeah, Hustle told a true story. It really got in depth with things.
Reason I like Hustles because I think it was based a lot more on the European explosion in the NBA.
Yeah,
which
Adam
I think,
Sandler,
I think, just players in general that are born in the States.
Yeah.
I think that's what did it for me. And Adam Sandler's phenomenal.
Oh yeah, he's always good. Yeah. I'm still going Great White Hype. I mean, like, but yeah,
like an edge. I'm going the other way. I'm going Hustle Zappy for the tiebreaker. Who's advancing?
Man, look, Adam Sandler needed to make a follow-up movie to Uncut Gems. Uncut Gems was really his first time taking on a role like that, and
it got to a lot of people.
Yeah, and you know what? I thought he did great at Uncut Gems.
Absolutely. So did Kevin Garnett, for that matter.
And then you bring in a movie like Hustle. Gancho Hernandez, the guy that played Bo Cruz.
Right.
I thought he did a really good job of telling the story of that kid getting the opportunity, because I think that's a big part is if you could feel the character and be looking at the movie like if you're watching it in his eyes, then I think to me that is what gives you the win. And that's what I felt when I watched Hustle. Watching Adam Sandler, the struggles he had to go through, being an assistant coach, next coach in the line, getting fired, trying to get back to the Sixers.
It puts it in perspective that part of the job is not that glamorous.
Okay, I'm changing my let's go Hustle, man.
Yeah, it's
now I'm thinking.
I mean, even without your vote, it looked like
it was still a win.
It's two out of three.
Unanimous, man.
That's why it's a blessing that we got 3 guys as opposed to 4.
Yeah.
Or you'd have to have 5 guys as opposed to 4 because
let's make it unanimous, man.
You can set up too many ties if you have a 4-man panel tonight. I'm going to be right back, but I'm going to let you guys mull this one over. Oh. We got The Fighter about Irish Mickey Ward versus Sunset Park. I will be right back.
With me, I'm going to go with The Fighter because I know Mickey Ward's story. I've seen his whole career, the wars with Arturo Gotti. It was a true story. Sunset Park, I believe, was a true story as well. But
that was with a young Terrence Howard.
Yeah, very young. Him and Frito Star of Onyx. But I'm going with The Fighter. Because I was like, I'm a Mickey Ward fan, and that guy fought some wars. I mean, he fought some. If people haven't seen this man fight, look up his fights with Arturo Gotti.
Oh no!
All 3 fights. Those fights were like Rocky and Apollo Creed. War, start to finish. A lot of blood, a lot of swelling, a lot of punches. Yeah. So I'm going with The Fighter. I would go. Yeah, I'm going with The Fighter. I'm not going to say like a blowout, but a comfortable win.
I go comfortably with The Fighter. I loved watching Mark Wahlberg play Mickey Ward. I thought he played him very well.
Yes.
And then to see the role Christian Bale took on as his trainer, as what was his trainer's name?
Oh shoot, I should know this.
It's not Mickey. It's
no.
Dickie something. His first name was Dickie.
Yeah.
I remember. I'm pretty positive it was Dickie. Oh, what the hell was his name? Because I remember I was like, oh, Mickey and Dickie.
Yeah. Because
but yeah, it's I like the
Dickie Eklund.
Eklund. That's right.
Dick Eklund. Yep. Dickie
Eklund.
But
watching that whole story come together, obviously I know a lot about Mickey Ward, just from doing my own personal research, things like that. And the way they were able to put that movie together, I thought Christian and Mark did a phenomenal job together. Yes. Especially since I don't think they had ever done a movie together. And that to me is a big one. because playing Mickey Ward is no easy task. But the one thing is, they picked the right guy to play him, because anytime you think of a movie from Boston or something like that, you're going to think of Mark Wahlberg, Matt Damon, Ben Affleck.
Exactly.
So it's
right.
Those are the three, and
those are the
when
three.
you think of those three, like, all right, well, which one is the one that looks like the fighter? It's Mark Wahlberg. He's just always looked that way. And then Sunset Park, it was a good movie, but I didn't think it was great. I think
it was just good. It was
good, yeah. And I mean,
it was just good.
Comparing it with these two, Sunset Park is one of those that I don't even know if I could put it top. Do I dare say top 10? I don't think I would even have a top 10 on mine.
No, it's not top 10. It's not top 10.
But you know what I would say? If it wasn't Sunset Park, it would be a Fighter versus Warrior, the MMA movie that came out. That would be a good argument right there.
That'd have been a good argument right there.
Because I thought Joel Edgerton and Tom Hardy in those movies, or in that movie with Nick Nolte.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought that was a great movie. Watching it, even leading up to the championship fight, watching two brothers fight each other and seeing all the hate finally just release out of his body at the very end when he finally taps out. Like, that was just like, oh my God, like, what a moment,
Nick
because
Nolte.
No, I was gonna say, to see the two brothers,
like,
after all the shit they've been through because of their alcoholic father, like,
that's why I like Nick Nolte and what's the movie we just finished talking about?
Blue Chips.
Blue Chips. He just has that look. He's one of them actors just has that look, like, he has to play that. He has to play that masculine role. I like Nick Nolte. He's solid. He reminds me of Samuel L. Jackson, that when he plays a role, there's roles specifically made for him.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he was good even in 48 Hours and Another 48 Hours.
Yeah, he didn't give a shit. Neither one of them.
No, he didn't. But yeah, that's why I like that movie. But no, we were just saying, Richie, between this one, it was unanimous on this one for the two of us.
Oh, I was watching the show outside.
Okay.
I stepped out for a quick second.
Okay.
I have to agree with Idris. Fighter for the win.
Yeah.
The three Bs, you made the reference of the three dudes from Boston that are always in those Boston movies. But yeah, Christian Bale killed it as the trainer and actually kind of overshadowed Mark Wahlberg, which doesn't happen frequently in anything he's in. Final matchup, this is Rocky Balboa versus Space Jam 2. The reason why I so much as even mentioned this one is because the significance of Rocky Balboa is that the fight scenes were so much more realistic.
Mm-hmm.
And the reasoning behind Space Jam 2 is because from a technological standpoint, I mean, I noticed it today when I was watching Space Jam briefly, that the cartoons are not what they were when we were younger.
No.
So you got to give Space Jam at least an honorable mention, a shout for that. Rocky Balboa for the win, because number one, it's just a better movie. But number two, what I really enjoyed about it is that they filmed during a real fight in Vegas when they had the Tarver versus Balboa fight.
Yeah.
Mason Dixon was his name.
Mason Dixon.
Yes. And that's
Mason
the first time.
Dixon, yeah.
Yes. And that was the first time in the Rocky series where the realism was there between the HBO sports coverage and all that went into it. So yes, Rocky Balboa for the win. That advances, and let me do our count here. While you guys
wait, hold on. You're not even going to let me put my vote in, because you know who I'm going to vote for here.
I know you're not. That's why I said that. But I'm going to tally this.
Same here.
It's easy. There's one specific scene from Rocky Balboa that sticks into my head.
Yeah, I know exactly.
When he's talking to his son.
Yes.
And when I was lifting weights, I'd always be listening to Eric Thomas on my headset, or I'd be listening to songs where it would be mashups of lines from this movie, and that was one of the lines that was always in those songs. So, you're going to get hit. You got to learn to get listening to
Hang
Rocky.
on. I'm going to cut you for a second. I'm going to play the scene. Bear with me. We'll play the scene on the way out.
That wasn't it. There was no doorbell. It was outside in the late night.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Living with you, it hasn't been easy. People see me, but they think of you. Now with all this going on, this is going to be worse than ever.
It don't have to be.
No, sure it does.
Why? You got a lot going on, kid.
Well, my last name? That's the reason I got a decent job. That's the reason why people deal with me in the first place. Now I start to get a little ahead. I start to get a little something for myself. And this happens. Now I'm asking you as a favor not to go through with this, okay? This is only going to end up bad for you, and it's going to end up bad for me.
You think I'm hurting you?
Yeah, in a way you are.
It's the last thing I ever wanted to do.
I know that's not what you want to do, but that's just the way that it is. Don't you care what people think? Doesn't it bother you that people are making you out to be a joke and that I'm going to be included in that? Do you think that's right? Do you?
Let me tell you something.
You ain't gonna believe this. But you used to fit right here. I'd hold you up and say to your mother, this kid's gonna be the best kid in the world. This kid's gonna be somebody better than anybody ever knew. And you grew up good and wonderful. It was great just watching you every day. It was like a privilege. Then the time come for you to be your own man and take on the world, and you did. But somewhere along the line, you changed. You stopped being you. You let people stick a finger in your face and tell you you're no good. And when things got hard, you started looking for something to blame, like a big shadow. Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is going to hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. Now, if you know what you're worth, then go out and get what you're worth. But you got to be willing to take the hits and not pointing fingers saying you ain't where you want to be because of him or her or anybody. Cowards do that, and that ain't you. You're better than that.
One of the best scenes. I love that scene.
You know, we have that on our wall in the kitchen. It's not hard you get It's not how hard you get hit. We got the whole we got that.
I've seen it. So tallying it up just to see who did better here. We got Rocky Balboa for the win. That is boxing fighter 2 boxing, hustle 2-1, Space Jam 2-2. Glory Road, 3-2 in favor of baskets, 4-2 with Above the Rim, $1 Million Baby, that's 3-4.
I think it tied.
5-3, 6-3 with the Hoosiers movie. And then he got game, 7-3.
Okay, basketball won.
Basketball gets the win. We got Rocky for the win, Raging Bull. It was close, 7-5 in favor of basketball. Those movies are going to be advancing.
The last two that you had said is what made it close for boxing with Fighter and Rocky Balboa. And
to even it out, we're gonna pick the weakest link of the ones that advanced, and I'm gonna make an executive decision and say bye Space Jam. So we're gonna be sending 5. You know what? Keep Space Jam. We're gonna deal with it on the next show when we vary it out with who gets W's from our baseball versus football show. I had a good time doing this, guys. This was cool.
It was
a long time coming, man.
I can't wait till we do the football one versus baseball because that's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah. And this is the first time we did something like this, so we could probably go in and look at it even differently on the next show. For Zappy. For Idris, I am Richie. If you haven't already, make it a point, like and subscribe to the channel, the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast. Keep your eyes peeled for Tuesday. We'll be dropping our Central Division previews for the American and National Leagues, respectively. And if you haven't already, definitely check out our show that we did earlier today as well. Until later in the week, we are out.